let me read from a little bit from the Gospel, because I need to talk about service and some of the things we're doing as churches in the coming months to help make sense, partly help make sense of what the vicar's doing, but also to help us come together in the coming months. Jesus says this in Luke chapter 22. He said to his disciples, "The kings of the Gentiles exercise lordship over them, and those in authority over them are called benefactors, but not so with you. Rather let the greatest among you become as the youngest, and the leader as one who serves. For who is the greater, one who reclines at table or one who serves? Is it not the one who reclines at table? But I am among you as the one who serves." And there we have Jesus' instruction to the apostles, through them Peter, through him the various bishops, archbishops, popes, etc., and eventually down a very long line to this vicar here. Not many years ago, a wise archdeacon pointed out, while I was being kind of mock stroppy while I was a curate, he said, "Once a deacon, always a deacon." And I don't know if you know, but when you're ordained in the Church of England, you start off being ordained as a deacon, and you stay a deacon, and deacon means servant. That's all it means. And so, the Archbishop of Canterbury is still a deacon. He was ordained a deacon, he was then ordained a priest, he was then consecrated as a bishop, and then given the position of archbishop. And of course the challenge upon anyone in my position is articulating, understanding and living with that continued relationship with the world, which is the servant. Many people, me included, when they get licensed to their first parish, they invite us to sing a song. It's the song that goes like this in its first verse. "Brother, sister, let me serve you. Let me be as Christ to you. Pray that I may have the grace to let you be my servant too." And boy, hasn't the last 4 months brought that out in all of us. And I'm acutely conscious that as I have sought to serve you, and as the ministry team have done that, I have received back that service. It's when you go on video a lot of days of the week, people pick up pretty quickly when you're not looking right, you're not feeling right. And I have received that service, and I want to thank you for that. And that possibly is going to be ongoing. I don't know if you remember though, and this is where I need to get into how we're going to proceed. Do you remember the very first actual service I led in our parishes was a joint service down in St Andrews in Kimbolton? And I said to you that you need to understand that my calling is as the parish's priest, not as the church's chaplain. I wanted to put that stall out at the beginning because I'm very conscious that I serve this benefice, not simply our churches. Our churches are absolutely key to how I serve this benefice, but it creates at the best of times a range of tensions and balancing acts, but never more so than in these challenging times, and in particular this time as we transition from lockdown into some kind of new normal. Now those balances, those challenges are all expressed in the proposals I've put out there. Well, they're not proposals now, they're the service rota for August and September. But also the proposals that I've put out to my church wardens and the ministry team on how we're going to be as church together, in our communities together, for the next, let's say, 18 months or so. Now, what's been really acutely present in my mind and made the task of leadership in service particularly challenging is just the sheer number of balances, challenges, and tensions that are at play within our communities and within us. Let me just outline, in no particular order, what those challenges and tensions and balances have been as we've gone through our conversations together. Safety, money, ministry team availability and their own safety, how we care for one another and continue to do that, how we care for our community and continue to do that, how we preach the good news of Christ, the gospel of Jesus, and continue to do that, how we sustain our civic role even though we probably can't have civic events properly anymore, how we enjoy our festivals, Harvest, Christmas, Remembrance, how we meet together because we long to be together, how we sustain corporate governance according to the regulations and law of the Church of England, how we continue with births, deaths and marriages and the overlapping pastoral care that we want to do in that work. How do we deal with a predictable future? How do we continue or seek to grow people in faith, particularly in the younger generations? How do we embrace the growing skills and the reach that we've learnt through growing use of our ability to use technology? That's a lot, isn't it? That's a whole bag of mashings that have all been brought together at this time with a view to saying, how are we going to be church together somehow? And how do I do it as your servant, but as a leader, with as much grace and as much forward thinking and as much of the love of God as I can? Now, I want to tell you that there are 4 basic guiding principles that shape my thinking as we navigate. So the first, well, actually it's in no particular order, it's all together, it's a balanced thing, and we'll come to balance in a moment. 1 is love for one another and the community. 2 is how do we connect people to God and help them move towards Him and into the life with God. Thirdly, how do we grow our own faith and devotion to God? And fourthly, how do we navigate the practical, legal and financial side of what it means to be a church in the Church of England? There's a lot of things going there, and I think it's worth drawing out. I remember rather well in one of Margaret Thatcher's autobiographies, she said that when she was in negotiation with the European Union, was it called that at the time? Perhaps it was the EEC at the time. She, in her conversations with the French Premier, she said, well, the trouble with compromise is that in compromise nobody gets what they want. Bless her. I wouldn't say that's entirely my view, but we do have to recognise that reality, that the trouble with balance is that nobody quite gets what they want. But I'd like to liken that issue of balance, you can call it compromise if you want, to sailing. If you've ever been sailing, sailing is a matter of balance. It's this balance between where you want to go, how hard the wind is blowing, which way the wind is blowing, which way the tide is going, how hard the tide is at that point, what your boat can cope with, etc., etc., etc. And to go forward well, or at least not go backwards negatively, is a question of balancing all those forces and tensions in order to be productive together. Not capsize, not go back to where you were, and not simply sit still as well. But the navigation of church and life and culture and all of those things actually is more like sailing than it is anything else. And so in balancing those four principles and all the underlying fermentation of anxiety and need and difficulty that we all have, we've come up with some proposals. And what you see is the proposals on how we're going to be church for a couple of months, but also some proposals on how we be church in our communities for many months to come while there is a live pandemic. Now that means initially we're starting slowly and gently, and we're continuing to some extent to maintain the technology side of things, because that's had obvious benefits. Now I think as we go along, we will then move into more being together in the church buildings, quite simply because winter's coming, but not until we're pretty used to how we do worship together. And we don't want to lose aspects of what we are. We're civic churches, we do festivals, but I've done the count in all of our churches, and you don't get many folk in after you've put 2 metres between each other. So we're going to have to use our technological abilities to do stuff like our major events using video production. And we have to appreciate that it's going to be a bit dodgy, isn't it? Having too many people in one space at one time for a while yet. But we've found ways of growing our faith using Zoom, using YouTube, and we can carry on doing that. So this is how it is at the moment. Quite soon, after I've had conversations with church wardens and with my ministry team, we'll share something about how we're going to navigate the next 18 months. And I thank you so much for the care and the honesty and the volume of feedback that's come in about how we proceed. I really appreciate that. It has made my head spin and I've been left pretty confused at times. But that's the cost, isn't it, of trying to be together in faith and balance all of the needs and issues and challenges and desires and faith requirements and simple social need that we all have. This Sunday I'll be leading worship at St Andrew's in Kimbolton, and if the weather holds, it'll be in the churchyard at the back. I've got to get a PA system, so please don't worry if you think, well, I'm not going to hear a thing. We'll work it out, and if we get it wrong, well, we'll get it right next time. There will also be a Zoom evening prayer, 5 p.m. on every Sunday. That's a chance to have a fairly light service, probably a short reflection because I can't say nothing when scripture is opened in front of me, and also a chance just to hang out together. But I won't know if you don't tell me by email, and I won't invite you unless you ask. And then on Wednesday mornings we'll have a regular Holy Communion at St Andrew's in Kimbolton, partly because that's a bigger building and partly because it's got an established communion that's happened there down the years, and partly because it's the biggest space we've got as a church. So actually if we have more people coming from around the benefice, it's easier to manage. And we'll work out what we do next once we've gotten into a little bit more of the swing of things. Finally, I'd like to finish in prayer, but also to thank you for your patience and the gift of your commitment and faithfulness during the last 4 months. And particular thanks to those of you who've expressed your concern and love to me. I don't recommend leadership when you can't be with people. But I thank you all for the ways you've helped that work, even though it's been so tough. Shall we finish in prayer, and I'll reread the words of Christ. He said to his disciples, "The kings of the Gentiles exercise lordship over them, and those in authority over them are called benefactors. Not so with you. Rather, let the greatest among you become as the youngest, and the leader as one who serves. For who is the greater, one who reclines at table or one who serves? Is it not the one who reclines at table? but I am among you as the one who serves. Let's pray together. Brother, sister, let me serve you. Let me be as Christ to you. Pray that I may have the grace to let you be my servant too. Lord Jesus Christ, we lift to you your churches, your kingdom in this world, and all the needs, longings, tensions and desires of our whole community. Lord, as we proclaim the good news of Christ, help us to be of one mind. Help us to know when to speak and when to serve. And help us to know how to worship you even though we feel so limited. Grant hope to those who feel most lost and lonely. And bless, Lord God, the work of your kingdom in our communities. Shall we join in the Lord's Prayer? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from this evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. So go in peace to love and serve the Lord, in the name of Christ. Amen.